Poor Man Loves Rich Girl. Chapter 1: The Meeting. Once upon a time in a bustling city, there lived a poor man named Jack. He worked tirelessly as a delivery boy, earning just enough to make ends meet. Every day, Jack would ride his old bicycle through the crowded streets, delivering packages with a smile despite his hardships. He lived in a tiny, run-down apartment and dreamed of a better life. One sunny afternoon, Jack was making his usual rounds when he was sent to a grand mansion on the outskirts of the city. The mansion belonged to a wealthy family, the Thompsons. Jack had never been to such a luxurious place before. As he approached the gate, he felt a mix of awe and nervousness. The gate slowly opened, and Jack rode up the long driveway lined with perfectly manicured gardens. He rang the doorbell, and a butler answered, leading him inside. Jack couldn't help but admire the elegant decor and expensive artwork that adorned the walls. He handed the package to the butler and was about to leave when he heard a soft voice behind him. "Excuse me," the voice said. Jack turned around to see a beautiful young woman standing at the top of the grand staircase. She had long, flowing hair and wore a stunning dress that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. "Yes, miss," Jack replied, trying to hide his nervousness. "I'm Emma Thompson," she said with a warm smile. "Thank you for delivering the package. My father has been eagerly waiting for it." Jack nodded, feeling a blush creep up his cheeks. "It's my pleasure, Miss Thompson." Emma walked down the stairs and approached him. "What's your name?" she asked. "I'm Jack," he replied. "Jack, would you like a drink before you go? It's a hot day, and you look like you could use one." Jack hesitated but then accepted her offer. He followed Emma into a beautiful garden at the back of the mansion. They sat down at a small table, and a maid brought them iced tea. As they talked, Jack learned that Emma was kind and down-to-earth, despite her wealthy upbringing. Before he knew it, an hour had passed. Jack realized he needed to get back to work. "Thank you for the drink, Miss Thompson," he said, standing up. "I should get going." "Please, call me Emma," she insisted. "And it was my pleasure, Jack. I hope to see you again." As Jack rode away from the mansion, he couldn't stop thinking about Emma. She was so different from anyone he had ever met. Little did he know, this encounter was just the beginning of a journey filled with love and suspense. Chapter 2: Growing Closer. Days turned into weeks, and Jack found himself delivering more packages to the Thompson mansion. Each time, he hoped to see Emma again. Sometimes she would be there, greeting him with a warm smile and inviting him for a chat in the garden. Their conversations became the highlight of Jack's days. Emma, too, found herself looking forward to Jack's visits. She admired his hard-working nature and his positive attitude despite his struggles. They shared stories about their lives, dreams, and aspirations. Emma's wealth had never made her truly happy, and she found solace in Jack's simple but genuine outlook on life. One day, Jack gathered the courage to ask Emma if she would like to go out for a walk in the park. To his delight, she agreed. They spent the afternoon strolling through the park, talking and laughing. For the first time in a long while, Jack felt a sense of happiness and hope. However, not everyone was pleased with their growing friendship. Emma's father, Mr. Thompson, was a stern and wealthy businessman. He had grand plans for his daughter's future, plans that did not include a poor delivery boy. He had been observing Jack's frequent visits and decided it was time to intervene. Chapter 3: The Warning. One evening, as Jack was about to leave the mansion after another delightful conversation with Emma, Mr. Thompson called him into his study. The room was filled with expensive furniture and an air of authority. Jack felt a knot form in his stomach as he stepped inside. "Sit down, Jack," Mr. Thompson said, his voice cold and commanding. Jack obeyed, feeling a sense of dread. "I have noticed your frequent visits to my home," Mr. Thompson began. "And I am aware of your growing friendship with my daughter. Let me be clear, Jack. Emma is destined for a life of privilege and prosperity. She is not meant to associate with someone of your status." Jack felt his heart sink. He had always known that his relationship with Emma was complicated, but hearing it from Mr. Thompson made it painfully real. "I understand, sir," Jack said quietly. "But Emma and we care about each other." Mr. Thompson's eyes narrowed. "Care? Love is a luxury that people like you cannot afford. You must stay away from my daughter, Jack. If you don't, I will ensure that you regret it." Jack left the mansion that night with a heavy heart. He knew that Mr. Thompson was right in many ways. The gap between his world and Emma's was vast, and the challenges they faced were immense. But the thought of giving up on Emma was unbearable. Chapter 4: The Secret Meetings. Despite Mr. Thompson's warning, Jack and Emma continued to see each other. They knew they had to be careful, so they started meeting in secret. Late at night, Jack sneaks into the Thompson garden, and Emma slips out to meet him. They cherished these stolen moments, knowing that they were risking everything. One night, as they sat under the stars, Emma turned to Jack with a determined look in her eyes. "Jack, we can't keep living like this. We need to find a way to be together without hiding." Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, Emma. But your father, he's powerful. He could ruin my life." Emma took his hand in hers. "I don't care about the money or the status, Jack. I just want to be with you. We can find a way, I know we can." Their secret meetings continued, and their bond grew stronger. They began making plans to leave the city and start a new life together, far away from the constraints of their current lives. But fate had other plans. Chapter 5: The Betrayal. One evening, as Jack was leaving the mansion after another secret meeting with Emma, he was confronted by Mr. Thompson's men. They grabbed him and dragged him into a dark alley, where Mr. Thompson was waiting. "I warned you, Jack," Mr. Thompson said, his voice filled with menace. "But you didn't listen." Jack struggled against the men holding him, but it was no use. "Please, Mr. Thompson, we love each other. Can't you understand that? Mr. Thompson's face twisted with anger. Love? Love won't pay the bills or uphold our family's reputation. You are nothing but a distraction for my daughter. With a nod from Mr. Thompson, the men began to beat Jack mercilessly. He tried to fight back, but they were too strong. As the pain became unbearable, Jack's thoughts drifted to Emma. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving her, but he knew he was running out of options. After what felt like an eternity, the beating stopped. Jack lay on the ground, bruised and battered. Mr. Thompson knelt beside him, his expression cold. This is your last warning, Jack. Stay away from Emma, or next time, it will be much worse. With that, Mr. Thompson and his men left, leaving Jack alone in the alley. Jack knew he had to make a decision. He couldn't put Emma in danger, but he also couldn't bear the thought of losing her. Chapter 6: The Escape. Jack spent the next few days recovering from his injuries. He avoided the Thompson mansion and tried to come up with a plan. He knew that staying in the city was no longer an option. He had to leave, but he couldn't leave without Emma. One night, Jack managed to send a message to Emma, telling her to meet him at their usual spot in the garden. When she arrived, he told her everything that had happened. Emma, we have to leave, Jack said urgently. Your father won't stop until he destroys me. We need to go somewhere where we can be together without fear. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. I know, Jack. I've been thinking the same thing. Let's leave tonight. They packed a few essentials and made their way to the train station, careful to avoid anyone who might recognize them. As they boarded the train, they felt a mix of fear and excitement. They were leaving everything behind, but they were doing it together. Chapter 7: A New Beginning. Jack and Emma traveled for days, finally arriving in a small, quiet town far from the city. They found a modest but cozy house and began to build their new life together. Jack found work as a mechanic, and Emma started teaching at a local school. They were happy, despite the challenges they faced. But Mr. Thompson was not one to give up easily. He had hired private investigators to track down his daughter and her poor lover. It was only a matter of time before they were discovered. Chapter 8: The Confrontation. One evening, as Jack and Emma were enjoying dinner, there was a loud knock on the door. Jack's heart sank as he opened it to find Mr. Thompson standing there, flanked by his men. Emma, we're leaving, Mr. Thompson said, his voice cold and authoritative. Emma stood her ground. No, father. I'm not going anywhere. I love Jack, and this is my life. You can't control me forever. Mr. Thompson's face hardened. You don't understand, Emma. This isn't just about you. Our family's reputation is at stake. If you don't come with me now, you'll be disowned. You'll lose everything. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a surge of determination. Then so be it. I'd rather be poor and happy with Jack than rich and miserable without him. Mr. Thompson's eyes flashed with anger, but he saw the resolve in Emma's eyes. He knew she wouldn't back down easily. "Very well," he said coldly. "But don't say I didn't warn you. You're making a huge mistake." With that, Mr. Thompson and his men turned and left. Jack and Emma stood in the doorway, watching them go. They knew their decision would change their lives forever, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 9: Building a Future. In the following months, Jack and Emma worked hard to build a new life together. Jack continued his job as a mechanic, and Emma became a beloved teacher at the local school. They made new friends in the community and found joy in the simple things. Though they faced financial struggles and uncertainty, their love for each other never wavered. Every night, they would sit together and talk about their dreams for the future. They planned to save enough money to buy a small piece of land where they could build a home and start a family. One day, Jack came home with exciting news. "Emma, I got a promotion. The garage owner is retiring and wants me to take over the business." Emma's eyes filled with tears of happiness. "Oh, Jack, that's wonderful. I knew things would work out for us." With the promotion, they were able to save more money and move forward with their plans. They bought a small plot of land on the outskirts of town and began building their dream home, brick by brick. Chapter 10: The Return. Years passed, and Jack and Emma's love only grew stronger. They now had 2 beautiful children and a cozy home filled with love and laughter. The struggles of the past seemed like a distant memory. One sunny afternoon, as Jack was working in the garden and Emma was preparing lunch, they heard the sound of a car pulling up their driveway. Jack looked up to see a familiar figure stepping out of the car, Mr. Thompson. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't seen her father since the night he had tried to take her away. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked outside to meet him, Jack following close behind. Mr. Thompson stood there, looking older and wearier. "Emma, Jack," he said, his voice softer than they remembered. "May I come in?" Emma nodded, still unsure of his intentions. "Of course, Father." They sat down in the living room, the tension palpable. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "I know I've made mistakes. I've been stubborn and prideful. But seeing you both now, so happy and successful, I realize I was wrong. I was wrong to try and control your lives." Emma's eyes softened. "Father, we never wanted to be estranged from you. We just wanted to live our lives on our own terms." Mr. Thompson nodded. "I understand that now. And I'm truly sorry. I hope that, someday, you can forgive me." Jack reached out and placed a hand on Mr. Thompson's shoulder. "We appreciate your apology, sir. The past is behind us. What's important is the future." Tears filled Mr. Thompson's eyes as he looked at his daughter and her family. "Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Emma." From that day forward, Mr. Thompson became a part of their lives again. He visited often, doting on his grandchildren and building a new relationship with Emma and Jack. The once formidable barriers of wealth and status had crumbled, replaced by understanding and love. Chapter 11: A Happy Ending. Jack and Emma's life together was filled with joy and fulfillment. Their children grew up in a loving home, and the small town became a close-knit community of friends and neighbors who supported one another. Despite the obstacles they had faced, Jack and Emma's love had triumphed. They had proven that true happiness didn't come from wealth or status but from the bonds of love and family. As they sat together on their porch one evening, watching the sun set over their beautiful garden, Jack took Emma's hand in his. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he said with a smile. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. "Yes, we have. And I wouldn't change a single moment of it." They sat in comfortable silence, knowing that their love story was one of resilience, courage, and an unbreakable bond. They had found their happy ending, and it was more beautiful than they could have ever imagined. The voiceover in this video is provided by English Gum. Copying or re-uploading is strictly prohibited.